Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen, hanging out with my most favorite co host ever, Tony Shore.
Well, thank you, Barb. That's great to know. Kind of you to say. I'll buy it. Thank you for
Well,
that. I'll
gosh, how
take it.
many years have we known each other? How many years did we know each other before we started doing this podcast?
I'm going to go with 56 years. No, I'm teasing.
You'd be off a little.
We've known each other for years.
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
And you have seen many an up and down in the market from the outside
Yep.
looking in.
Yep.
And we have all seen all kinds of plot twists and curves that we never expected.
Black swan events like COVID,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
housing bubble.
Yes, yes. And for right now, there are federal employees that feel like they're experiencing their own kind of black swan event. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you agree?
Yeah, I would say so.
I like to think of myself as an optimist, and I know that you're an optimist too.
Oh, very much so.
Every now and then we need to get a tiny bit more serious than what I normally like. So there will be no dad jokes today.
Yeah.
No discussing the Royals homestand where they won 6 in a row. But
Same with the Twins. We've won quite a few, 5 in a row at least.
yeah, we're going to play Tampa tonight. Like I said, we record this podcast in advance. It's going to be a week or so before this is up on the website. But many federal employees, the federal government is the largest employer in the Kansas City metropolitan area.
Yep.
Most people don't realize that. We have a lot of regional offices here and a lot of stuff going on. And I am privileged that we get to serve as many federal employees as we do. Say that 3 times fast. It's
Right.
been, you would think I over-caffeinated today, but I didn't. But there is just a lot of uncertainty right now with federal employees. A lot of things that they don't know if it's going to happen, what's going to happen. How a reorganization could affect their position, whether or not somebody is going to be subject to a reduction in force. I have a client who was reassigned within his agency into a position that he really didn't want. And quite honestly, a position that requires a lot of expertise. And he knew, he's like, it takes people years to master this position. And I'm kind of getting thrown in the 10-foot section here. And then through a series of circumstances, ended up getting reassigned again back to his original job.
That happens in the federal government.
It does.
My brother-in-law worked for the federal government for most of his life. He has, and it really he just went from, oh, now I'm in this position, or no, they moved me over here. So yeah.
So, if you are a federal employee and you're listening to this, our hearts are with you and we empathize with you, but we are also here to help you sort out some of this mess.
Yeah.
Because we know that it's like somebody handed you a bowl of spaghetti, put mittens on your hands, and then said, please untangle this.
Yep.
It's just not a very easy thing to look at. So we're going to talk about 3 things today that I don't want you to do if you're a federal employee.
Okay, this is going to be good. My my brother-in-law, Tim, who I've talked about on the show.
He retired a while back, didn't he?
He retired, but went back. They hired him back as a consultant, and now they've eliminated that position. So he got a phone call from the person saying, you're no longer needed. We've eliminated that position.
Goodness.
And normally he could go. Nope.
Wow.
Yep. It's done. And they're not refilling it. They're not hiring anyone.
No.
So
that's not the first time I've heard that story. I have other clients who retired and were in a consulting capacity, and their positions have been eliminated.
Yeah, they've eliminated. Those are the first to go. And say he's not incredibly surprised, and he's okay, but but his wife still works for the government.
Hmm.
Yeah, she still works for Langley. So, but she doesn't know. They're
And
like,
we'll just
wow,
leave that right there, won't we?
we will. Yes. State Department, Langley,
Yeah,
wherever she works, he says she's okay for now, but it's just been crazy for federal employees.
it really has. And the first thing that I don't want you to do as a federal employee is to hide from the emotions of what's going on, because those are very real and very valid.
Hmm.
And when you hide from what's going on, that's when you make impulsive decisions, or you get paralyzed and make no decisions at all and feel like you are no longer empowered. And so, I mean, it's like Mr. Rogers had this famous quote when there were catastrophic things going on television. Do you know where I'm going with this? I don't know if you do or not.
I
Mr.
think so.
Rogers always used to encourage the children to look for the helpers
Yes.
and to look for those people that are there providing assistance. Look for people who are providing support. So, you as a federal employee, I'm telling you to look for the helpers with all of this. I know that your HR department is overwhelmed. I know that there are a lot of rumors and unstable things being passed around. I would guess that your email inbox just is a ball of confusion when it comes to the staffing things and what could possibly be going on. So, if you are somebody who is near retirement or who has been considering retirement, I know that there has been a second fork in the road option that has gone out to some agencies. I don't think it was distributed to as many agencies as the initial one was. But if you are planning on retiring in the next few months anyway, it might not be a bad idea to work with somebody who understands how your federal benefits are designed. Find somebody who has a little bit more knowledge of what's going on with some of these options that are being presented. And don't make this decision in a vacuum. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't try to do it without seeking information. Look for the helpers.
Look for the helpers. I remember Mr. Rogers telling the kids, look for the
Mhm.
helpers.
I
Look for
think
someone in a uniform or with an official badge.
And I
Yep.
think it might have happened like around 9/11 with all of the coverage that was around that. I think that's when he might have said that, but don't quote me on that.
I think it was even before that,
It
but I think
probably
it came
was.
back up and he reiterated it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, as a federal employee, if you've got at least 5 years of service, at age 62, you are entitled to a pension. If you're not 62, but you've got at least those 5 years and you are thinking about making the transition to private service because it's too chaotic, the second thing I don't want you to do is do not take your pension deposits with you when you separate.
Why
Okay.
is that?
Well, because, what looks appealing is a few $1,000s that you could put in your pocket means that you are then not eligible for the pension because you took those deposits with you. If you leave those deposits there, there's an agent that you and I both know very, very well, who started as a federal employee when he was, I think, 14 years old, he said. Well,
Yes.
his dad was serving overseas, and he's got 5 years of credited service. So when he turns 62, he will go to OPM and pursue that pension that he's entitled to. It's number one, you never know if you're going to go back to federal service.
Right.
And when the dust settles, you might find that you want to go back to public service.
Right.
And if you do that, you would then have to buy back the time if you take those deposits with you. They add interest to it, and it can get fairly expensive.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that position. I mean, it's
No.
better, and plus you want that money for retirement. So if you're going to continue
Hmm.
working, just it doesn't hurt to leave it be, right?
No, because as a federal employee, once you start drawing that pension, you can go back onto the federal employees' health insurance, which is
Nice.
some of the best coverage available
Yeah,
in
for
the
the
country.
price, it's the best. I mean,
It,
low cost and
mhm,
decent coverage. Yeah.
yes. So, even though you might, if you're younger and you're getting cut because they're eliminating a whole department, don't get reactionary and take those deposits thinking that you're going to need that money to live on, because it could benefit you more in the future.
Okay. So
Okay.
don't take your pension deposits with you when you leave.
Right. Right. Um and we already said, don't don't get caught up in all of the craziness. That's
Yeah, that was number 1, right?
that was number 1. That
Don't
was
let all
number
the craziness sweep you under or lead you to
yeah,
make emotional decisions. Don't do
right.
that. Yeah.
Right. And don't try to do this without help.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. That's the first, and we've went over the second. What's the third thing?
The third thing is, if you separate from service and you're at least 55 years old, but not 59 and a half, I don't want you to roll over your entire thrift savings plan into an outside IRA.
You mentioned this before
We
on a
have talked
show,
about this
and
before. In fact, I
but
think we talked about it just a few weeks ago, but people do this all the
but
time
it
and
sounds
it bears
counterintuitive
it
because
does.
this is not the conventional wisdom that I've heard from other financial advisors.
It
They
is
always say you're much better off taking your 401k or your TSP if you're a federal employee in this case,
mhm,
and putting it into, if you're going to leave, you might as well roll it into uh
an
an
outside IRA.
an outside IRA. It gives you more control, blah blah blah. And
Well, but
you've heard that
this
too,
I had
right?
oh, absolutely. But you understand that I had qualifiers around that.
Yes.
You are at least 55
Yes.
and you have not reached age 59 and a half.
Right.
Okay. If you have trouble, if you are subject to a reduction in force and you have trouble finding another job because job openings fell to their lowest level and I can't remember how long
Yeah,
this
and you
when
can't
those
just
numbers
before,
came
if
out.
a government employee didn't keep his job one area, sometimes he could go get work in another
Right.
area,
Right, but there's
or
not a
they.
whole lot of lateral or intra-agency transfers going on, or
Nope, none.
inter-agency
Yeah,
transfers
yeah, because
going
there's
on.
a hiring freeze.
Right. But and I'm not saying that you leave it all in your thrift savings plan. I am saying that you leave a piece of it there, because if you end up needing to pull money out to help float the bills, if you're at least 55 years old the year you separate from service, or if you are a law enforcement or air traffic controller age 50, or a firefighter, okay? You know if you're a Leo and you can do this at age 50 versus 55.
Sure.
You can withdraw money from your thrift savings plan and not get hit with that 10% early withdrawal penalty that
Nice.
you do when it's in an IRA.
Ah, okay.
Okay? And it never hurts to have a cushion there.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you lose your job and you're not guaranteed
Mhm.
another one, you
Right.
might need to do that.
Right.
And so
Now
if you
my
fall between that window, 55 and 59
Right,
and a
and if
half.
you've got questions about it, call our office at area code 913-553-6222. Either I or one of the other agents in the office will be happy to talk to you about your federal benefits and make sure that you're getting the most out of them and that you understand how all of them work at this point. So, and it goes without saying, I guess bonus number 4 is, don't try to do this with somebody that doesn't understand how all of your federal benefits work,
Yeah.
because they could do more harm than good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially that last one. That's most advisors are going to want you to
Take it
or
all.
encourage you to take anything you can and roll it into
Mhm.
an independent IRA. That's just that's kind of their knee-jerk stock reaction.
Right. And once you're 59 and a half, that makes sense because that
It does.
10% early withdrawal penalty goes away. But
And you can roll it into an IRA and you have more flexibility. There are reasons to do it, but in
mhm,
this circumstance for federal employees, there are definitely reasons you don't want to do it.
right, because the downside is the money that's left in TSP, if you have to take it out, they're withholding 20% federal income tax or more. They won't withhold less.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to wait until you file your tax return to get the difference back in what they collected versus what you should have paid.
Yikes.
So there's drawbacks to it. However, I would rather you have to wait a few months and let the government have your money interest free than cost you 10% of what you're taking out for the sake of a lack of information or basic greed,
Yeah.
however you want to slice it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, it's something that I hope that we are a place of, that little oasis of calm in the midst of some really, really tumultuous stuff emotionally right now for federal employees. I mean, I have federal employees that are literally losing sleep at night trying to figure out what to do.
Hmm.
I have federal employees that never bothered to get a work accommodation for their disabilities because they were told they would always have a remote job, and then the remote jobs have been eliminated. There's just a whole lot of stuff that has come at federal employees all at once, because we're actually recording this on, I believe, President Trump's 100th day in office.
Yeah. Yep.
So, there's been a lot around that and a lot of press that has gone around that. And I can't imagine the private sector going through the reorganization and the executive order after executive order. Were there changes that needed to be made to the federal government? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. However, this would be destabilizing to anybody.
Yeah. Any company.
It
Yeah.
would be. I mean, in a lot of ways, it would be akin to somebody in the health services field in an emergency room working triage during a natural disaster. You
Yeah.
just have to keep your head down and focus on the next thing. And while I know that it has been very, very difficult for many of you, I want you all to know that we are a resource and that we are here to help you with that.
Yeah.
And that if you are needing help through your employee assistance program or reaching out to have somebody to talk to about this, that is a perfectly human response and is something that is best considered.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a client that was really, really having a hard time with this. And I gave him a homework assignment. I told him, I'm like, I want you to sit outside for 15 minutes every day without anything electronic in your hands. I just want you to listen to the birds and listen to the sounds of nature and just be. And then I want you to read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, because if he can figure out how to play golf in his head in the middle of a concentration camp, you too can, with the right mindset and help, develop some healthier coping systems to get
Sure.
through what is a really, really rough time.
Yeah.
Okay. I am not paralleling the two by any stretch of the imagination. So
No.
please don't send me hate mail talking about that.
No.
But understand that we as human beings are incredibly resilient.
Yeah. You just
And
need to take some mental health time for yourself.
yes,
That's what I call it.
turn off the news.
Yep. Turn everything off and just relax for at least 15 minutes or
Go
half
spend
hour.
some time in a garden. Go buy yourself some flowers and plant them. Get a nice tomato plant. Nothing tastes better than a homegrown tomato.
There you go.
Okay. And just do some things to nurture yourself through all of this.
Yeah.
And again, if you've got questions about your federal benefits or about whether you should take a buyout offer or about whether it makes sense for you to look for work in the private sector, call us at area code 913-553-6222 or go to our website, bgwealthmanagement.com.
All right. Well, Barb, great show today.
Yes.
Tough topic. Our federal employees out there are dealing with a lot right now, and I'm glad that you're here to help when it comes to understanding their benefits, what to do, what not to do, as we talked about in today's show, mistakes to avoid. That's always very helpful. I think that's fantastic. And once again, listeners and viewers, if you're a federal employee and want to get some guidance, Barb, you've helped so many people in the community. It's 913-553-6222. That's 913-553-6222.
Yep.
And that does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gullen.
We'll see you soon.